Papa?
Hello and welcome to The Deep End with Benjamin Boyce and Leslie Elliott. Leslie, welcome aboard. How are you doing today?
Oh, thanks so much. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am about to find out.
You are? You don't know
Yeah,
how
I
you
don't know
are?
what's going to come out of my mouth when we do
I
these
know. I
things.
never know either. You cleaned up your shirt.
I clamped my shirt. I found a hat. Got the audio
Got
to
the
work.
microphone working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was
Deep
that
end, take
name?
two.
Yeah, Deep End. 16, take two.
Tip.
Um,
Yep.
as you can see, oh no.
What can we see?
What were we going to talk about? There's so many things in my mind, and then I saw like the little board game in the frame. But I'm going
Oh,
to
yeah.
wait till later on
Right.
because you're not into that. I'm into
You
that.
keep saying I'm not into that, but I don't know if I'm into that because I haven't
I'm
played
into it.
I
I'm
know.
super into it.
I know.
Did we ever talk about Dune Part 2 on the stream?
No.
What were your
didn't.
thoughts on it?
I liked it pretty
Did you
well.
like the first one, I guess?
Yeah, I did. I liked the first one. I liked the book. It's a really good book. I've read it 3 or 4 times, which is more than most books. More than I've read most books. I've read it over and over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. I feel like the book also really falls off around the point where where the first movie ended. Like the book is not. The story's not as tight after that point. After everything, they go into the desert basically, and I feel like the story is just a little bit more scattered and less interesting at that point.
After Duke Leto dies.
And so I kind of expected the movie to be that way as well.
Yeah. Really? Okay. I'll have to. I read it once. I was. Yeah, well, I started reading it back in 2003 or something like that. I'm like, I just was really into refined literature, and I was really unimpressed with the writing style, and it just was getting in the way. So I like put it down. Plus, I had like this really crumbly copy, and
So
then
did you never finish it?
not the first time, but then
Oh.
when the movies were about to come out, I picked it up and I just like crammed through it, and I really enjoyed it. It was good. And then I started the second one,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh no, the writing, his he just doesn't seem like he was really caring about the writing itself. And that's my problem as a writer. I care too much about the writing, so my writing
Form
becomes
and
over,
substance.
yeah, form and substance
Yeah.
and flow. So I didn't get back into it, but I can't remember the first one falling off precipitously.
It's been my thought every time I've read it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I just feel like it's a really captivating story up
Yeah.
until the big siege, and then
Okay.
it sort of just becomes a bit more. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate it. It's just that it's less interesting. It scatters. The story is looser.
Okay.
It's not as interesting. So I kind of expected the movie to be that way,
Yeah.
and it was. But it was still enjoyable to kind of get back in touch with the characters, and I feel like the cast and the way that this movie was presented, how pretty it is, and how the music is so amazing. And so because I had already accepted this visual
Okay.
and audio framework for the story that I really enjoyed, I enjoyed seeing it continue to be fleshed out.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any major criticisms. I know a lot of people. I saw somebody criticizing the some of the characters in the story.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, going back to the book, there's a lot of intrigue stuff and a lot of political stuff, and it never really hit like why all these people are like having all these things. Like, why would Duke Leto go to die? It was really like, why? I was never convinced. Like, this is just obviously stupid. In that way, kind of reminds me, and I wonder if George R. Martin was kind of referencing
That's
that
not
with
Oh, okay.
with the first book of Game of Thrones.
Okay. I was like, those books are so terrible.
Oh, okay. Well, the first
Just-
book is pretty novel and stuff, and the character
yeah.
makes this really stupid decision over and over and over again because he's following honor. And it's just like, why would somebody be so... Just because you're honor...
I hate the Game of Thrones books. I could not stand those. That guy is just a smut peddler. I mean, he really has... I'm sorry, maybe I'm being speaking too strongly. I read 4 of them. I read the first 4 because my
There's only
daughter
one
was
more.
reading them. I couldn't do them anymore after that.
Yeah.
My daughter was reading them. She was in high school at the time, and I was like, well, I wonder what she's reading. She's really into these. Let me read them. And I didn't really share any criticisms with her. She was free to choose what she wanted to read, but I really just, he's really good at world building, and he's good at character development, but then he's got just this sadistic and perverted streak. So he loves to take these beautiful characters and these beautiful scenes that he's set up and then destroy and do terrible things with them and make them do really, I mean, it's just, yeah, I couldn't stand the Game of Thrones
Well,
books.
one tact of commenting on that, not that I adhere to it, is that he's trying to do that. He's inverting the Tolkien narrative, right? He's playing around with these expectations and trying to be more realistic and stuff. But there's certainly a sadistic thing, and how much he goes into food, it just on and on, like, oh, here we go.
Oh, that's interesting. I
He's
didn't
going to start
even catch
talking about food 5 pages later.
Really?
And then the delectless succulent piglux or whatever, you know. I don't know. Maybe that, I do remember that. I don't know if I'm being necessarily accurate to
Wooksy.
that.
Says
Yeah,
the microphone is well adjusted, as are our hosts.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
we're
That's
very
really
well
nice.
adjusted.
That's
Oh,
very
yeah.
nice. That's very nice.
Well, we adjust each other,
Yeah. Well.
at least in the attitude department.
Yeah, that's true. Talking about Dune, yes, Ninja Kitty, did you see it? Aaron wants to know if you can play D&D tonight.
Okay.
Well, I guess we will
Yeah,
have to.
we'll get around to that. I'm
Yeah,
doing this right now. I don't want to.
So, snacks positivity. You named
You
named it Snacks Positive.
Politics. Okay, yeah. So Scribe Light is defending Duke Leto for
okay.
adhering to principle. But he goes out to this planet, and I'm like, why would he do that, knowing this would happen? You know, and then there's intrigue. But really, the core of the story is about Paul, which is like this protagonist, which really kind of plays on this sense of youthful destiny. Like, what is my destiny? What is ultimate power? And then there's also the awesome character building of like getting more and more powers, and then like kind of unlocking some sort of connection to some sort of deeper truth or deeper history, and having a place and having a time and being a messiah in a way. And I read online after this part 2 come out, people are going through different iterations on what Villeneuve wanted to do and what Herbert wanted to do with deconstructing the Messiah, deconstructing somebody who can solve our political problems by being an icon of will. And I find that this inability to believe in the nobility of a leader or the nobility at the root of authority, and trying to struggle with authority as something that is necessary in this world and that can be executed correctly, but that has a high likelihood of magnifying not only the person's nobility, but their innobility, not only their aspirations, but also their decrepitudes, right? It's just power is an amplifier. And the kind of the liberal critique of power always being corrupt, always corrupting, of authority always being somehow imposed on other people and not a necessary aspect of human systems. And without that clear central authority, the radical center of authority, nested in a single human being who takes on the responsibility of reforming and championing and doing good for everybody else. Without that, you just have a system of power that is not accountable to anyone.
I just disagree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think that power is an amplifier, pure and simple. I think it's also something that changes the state of things. I think it's an element in and of itself that introduces something new. And I don't think that I think the problem with all of the a problem with all of the arguments about different sorts of government, and this monarchist argument, you're never going to set up something that just works. It's always going to be a tension. There's always going to be a balance. There's always going to be falling in and out of falling out of balance, and then a rebalancing. So there's always going to be this process, and I think that it's fundamentally problematic to think that you're going to set something in place that just then works forever.
Well, it's fundamentally problematic to not even enter the discussion because you think that it's a foregone conclusion that it's all corrupt. So
no, I don't think it's all corrupt. I just don't think that I don't at all agree that that monarchy is the answer.
Okay, well, I'm just talking about the exploration of authority that is exemplified by the Messiah nested in Paul Atreides. Like, what is that? Like, let's look at that, and the shying away from that, or the kind of what Villeneuve did, like by shoehorning in this. There's the fundamentalists, only backwards Southern people believe in authority. Only they who are challenged by power and shown a strong leader
Yeah, that was
are
an
able to
interesting
really
choice.
believe. But the the Northern enlightened, still sandy people.
Kind of the woke.
Yeah, the woke. What are they called? The woke Fremen.
Yeah.
Like, what do they actually believe in? They have to believe in community, but they believe in freedom. It's basically like this kind of desert tarp socialism that they have.
I think
And
he
they want
just
freedom.
articulated that particular tension in a way that is really contemporary.
I'm interested in the aspiration project of like what can be done with power, what can be done with authority. The system we have now has no accountability. It's all kind of just chasing its own tail. It's an oligarchical system that's highly distributed.
Has no accountability. What do you mean?
This constant conversation that I don't know if you have, but I have, about like this so-called deep state, or like the cathedral, or for whatever reason the New York Times, NPR, all of Hollywood, and all of the federal government are all woke. They're all just woke, like why are they all falling into this pattern? How do you change that pattern? If you swap that woke pattern out with a other pattern, would it produce something better in aggregate, even though it's still just a nested system of people who are out for their own good, for their own sake? So I'm just interested in the idea of monarchy as a thought experiment to question our incessant need to question authority.
Well, I think that it's really a problem of centralization, and that it would be a similar problem. You'd still have some kind of bureaucracy set up, even if you had a monarchy. You'd still, if you're trying to govern a whole ton of people, it doesn't really matter if you have a small administration or a single individual with a bunch of administration around them that then turns into a big technocratic bureaucracy. I mean, either way, if you're trying to administer to such a large number of people, you're going to have the same problem of scale. I just don't. I don't know how it would be that much different.
Well, I mean, ownership and accountability. Like,
would you want a king of the world?
I don't know. I don't know what I would want, but I know that our current government, has voted against the will of 70% of Americans to send $60 billion more to these wars that have nothing to do with this, which we all know is just a laundering scheme of that. And that's what Tucker Carlson, there's a few things that we're bringing up from the Tucker Carlson Joe Rogan interview about. He said that it reminded me of what you just said about power being a substance itself, or an entity in and of itself, or a force in and of itself. He said the same thing about evil being a force in and of itself. It's not some sort of thing that you do. It's something that takes over people and that directs them in certain ways, which is just an interesting way of thinking about things. I don't necessarily agree with, but I can see the world through that lens to a certain degree, and I can see that world, that way of looking at power to a certain degree. But I want a good. So within the context of Dune, if you have like this huge, like, you have the emperor, you have like this political situation that happens, and then the story arc is that this kid has a bunch of promise and has a bunch of responsibility to change the state of the game. And he's given a position to change the state of the game. But at the beginning, right before as he's ascending up to being in a position of power, he's completely brought low. He's completely just stripped of all vestiges of authority and of power, and he has to start over from himself. And there's just like that wonderful story. The core story is him making these decisions and claiming more and more of his own authority, and then acquiring more and more authority. And then what do you do with that authority? Is he smashes the old king and installs himself as the ruler. Now, that's an ancient archetypal pattern. What happens when Paul Atreides becomes the ruler of the known universe? Is it like it's all just destruction and death because of some reason? I never understood why everybody needs to die. I don't know why. That seems like the Herbert's perpetual liberal point of view, that all authority is bad, and we need to just have small little degrowth communities across the world where there's no centralization, because centralization in and of itself is bad. But the people who centralize will inherently conquer whoever's decentralized. So what do you do about that?
Well, I think that the problem is the seeking an endpoint, because it's going to swing in and out of balance. Those two forces are always going to be opposing one another, and so if you take anything to its conclusion, you end up with something that doesn't work anymore, because the tension and the balance is the
Hmm.
is what you're always striving for, and it's impossible to hold.
I think
I don't
it's
know.
I think it's possible. I think
You
there are
do?
great men in
That
history.
lasts forever and ever.
No.
That can set something in place that just stays.
Well, so I don't know what you're. I don't know. Like when you tell your argument, it feels like you're rushing beyond the point.
Okay.
Like beyond the point of like, well, what do we do in the moment?
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, well, it's gonna fizzle. Well, okay, yeah, but what about like the great men coming up and doing a great job? Like Steve Jobs, he did a great job.
Did he really?
He did a fabulous job.
Did it really benefit us?
He did a fabulous job with what he wanted to do.
Yeah, but what did? Yeah, okay, that's
I mean,
a whole nother conversation.
like I don't know, Martha Stewart, Mary Kondo. Like who's the hero of you? Are there no heroes?
Kurt Vonnegut.
The guy from Nirvana?
Yeah, the author. I don't know.
Okay, so an artist, a writer.
Yeah.
And did he? So he was more of a short story writer.
He wrote short stories. He wrote
I guess
longer
he did
stories as well.
a couple of novels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think like so he's a man of achievement?
I guess stories. I don't know. I don't know. What does a person need to achieve? Why does a life have to achieve so much?
Okay, see, now we're going back away from the. Okay, so there's no heroes. Like, why even have a hero?
Yeah.
Like, well, what is
my father is a hero.
Okay, so what is the quality of the hero?
Oh,
well. Like the admirable quality of a hero.
I guess that is a really good question.
If we're allowed to have heroes in this world.
I guess sensitivity, connection. Yeah, goodness, virtue, self-restraint, a desire to connect and to teach and to be a part of other things outside of oneself. I don't know. This is a good question. I haven't thought about this. You're asking me on the spot. I'll have to think about it.
That's a good question. Point. I should award myself every time somebody says that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because I'm really proud of those moments.
You should put them on little medals.
I should have a little notch in my bookcase, and I took out this Bowie knife and I
just
and then they're like,
happens.
wait, yeah, as it happens, people are like, I was going to answer that, but like that was weird, that's strange. Yeah, we kind of interrupt the flow.
Yeah.
Don't want to interrupt the flow.
Yeah.
It's all about the flow.
No, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I think that there's a segue here, but I want to like open up the floor to what you want to talk about.
No,
if you want to segue in a different way.
Yeah, that's fine.
So there's this board game. It's called Dune Imperium Uprising, and it's a 2.0 version of Dune Imperium, Dune Imperium, or it might be Dune Imperium Uprising. It doesn't really matter. And this is kind of a mixture of chess and what was I saying to my dad? So it's kind of like chess and it's kind of like Risk. It's kind of like Risk and chess. So it's a battle game, and everybody has their own, their own side. So there's kind of You
said it was chess with worms.
Yeah, Risk and chess with worms. And you guys want to see a worm? Oh, I'd have to. Wait,
oh no, yeah. You left one in my room.
I did leave one in your room. No, I brought it back. So here's the worm.
Oh my gosh! Tell me, what do you guys think that looks like?
It's not a very shy halud.
Oh, Benjamin.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. That was
a good one. I just made that up.
Yeah. That's really good. Mm-hmm.
So in this board game, and it's a game, right? And the game is to defeat everybody else and get a certain amount of points. Like there's an end game, and the game starts pretty simple and very sparse. It's got this great arc where you're trying to get resources in order to achieve your goals, and you're changing out your deck. So you have a bunch of cards, and you're trying to get more power, and then you're trying to get more resources, and then you're fighting over these places on the board. And then at the end of every round, where everybody like kind of makes a few moves, then there's a conflict, and then you get rewards, and then you go again, you reset the board, and there's conflict and rewards. And in that, I think that there's a tie-in here. So, like I get there's all the bad parts of it, which is really fun, or the negative aspects of power.
Okay.
which is control. I'm going to control this thing, and I'm going to deny you your power.
Mm.
So like there's it's all confrontation, right? It's like if there's an economic incentive structure to getting into blocking and to understanding where everybody else is to do that final action to see if you can win or to block them from winning. And so playing it with your boys and playing it with Jason Bradley came through and we played it and Jason was still learning and stuff. But like there's this aspect of the game where it is very like we're dominating each other. We're like in a contest of domination. And and we all kind of have limited amount of ability to do what we want to do. And you can see everybody like interacting with like that strategy. And one of your sons, Adrian, the younger one, is really good at strategy. Like he sees a picture in his head of where he wants to go, and he makes different steps. And the one of the times we played through the game, he got really frustrated because every time he tried to make a step, he got blocked. And then the game we were playing the other day, Jason kept on blocking me. I'm like, I have a plan. And then Jason's like, no, you can't do it. And he didn't do it intentionally. And I just started like, I was starting to get like rage, but like there's a difference between the game and like the
Yeah,
humans
they-
there,
yeah.
So I express
The
it
metagame.
in a dramatic manner, but I don't mean anything personal by it. And watching Adrian like deal with that frustration of not getting what he wants and then dealing with defeat too, but also like hatching a plan and going through the step and like seeing him like there's this I don't know what you think about it because there's kind of this moral kind of questionableness about it because like that's cunning. He's learning cunning. He's learning not necessarily deceit because you're not really lying, but it is really it's selfish. It's cunning and stuff. But if you tie that to leadership, it's like I have to do this for my people. I have to do this for my group. I have to do this for my group. And I don't know if you think that the world can exist without that kind of selfishness. If it can just be like an open source, there's no scarcity at all. There's no fighting over resources. Up to and including like there's no reason to lock our doors. There's no reason to have borders. We shouldn't have borders at all. Anybody can be anywhere, and nobody should have any property. I mean, to what degree do you start saying?
Well,
no,
I don't know,
mine?
but I don't know. This is interesting because it feels like there's kind of a false equivalency though, because you're saying
Okay.
if it's not this, then it's all of this. It's like everything possible downstream of that.
Well, everything that we're experimenting with the game, and that's why the game works, is because it's dealing with actual human nature and the understanding that humans
but
have
you
of
know what? There's
scarcity.
also we take on certain forms when we adopt certain roles in society, and
Okay,
so
this is an interesting paradigm that you have.
yeah. Well, it's not like in a game. You're still you. You're dipping into something. You're trying something out. So you're you experiencing these different pressures and forces and tensions and goals and ways of being blocked and all that. But you're still you doing that. If you actually take on a certain form, so think about we talked today about preachers. We were talking about how in
Protestant preachers.
these Protestant Christian churches, you get this kind of cult of personality around the preacher a lot of times, and
A lot of times, especially in the non-denominational space.
and I haven't. I mean, I've done some church shopping over the past, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, where I've tried probably, I don't know, like 5 or 7 or 8 churches, over this time, and gone to each one at least a few times, or sometimes for a year or two, and never found anything that perfectly fit. But one thing I've observed over and over is how it seems like the power structure, the attention structure, it has an effect on the person who's in charge of it. And you're usually looking at someone who's doing this for whatever noble reason that they started doing this, and they're a good person, but you can see them be shaped by the attention and the position that they're in. And you see that kind of cult of personality start to form. And I remember one of the last churches I went to, I really liked the pastor a lot. He was great. I really, really liked him. And I can remember going in and sitting there, and I didn't even realize I was doing this because it was almost subconscious, but I was thinking, oh, I hope this doesn't happen to him. I kind of see it happening to him. I hope it doesn't happen to him. Kind of that getting full of himself and getting that having that, I don't know. I hesitate to like put too fine a point on it, but maybe other people
Or too firm a point, for that matter.
Sure, firm a point. Yeah, but it's something you kind of sense the way that this is changing the person. And another example might be the stories of child actors. is another one, or famous people. Famous people, that's a different kind of power because it's the power of attention, but it's still power because if you're very famous, then you're used to people doing things for you or giving you a certain social currency for being popular. So there's that power of popularity, and you can see how they change. It changes the person. So I don't think it's a neutral act that just amplifies some part of the person. I think that you're interacting and learning from your social environment in a very particular way. And so I don't disagree with you that there might be a role. And I saw somebody in here was saying something about needing a strong leader, like we need a strong Caesar figure and to save the U.S. We can probably find it and put it on the screen.
No, I mean, if you go back to Aristotle, that's what he was saying.
I don't
Plato.
Disagree that.
And that's what's happening.
You mean Aristotle's Philosopher Kings?
That was Plato. I think it was Aristotle who spoke about like the different forms of government and how they kind of creep into each other.
Well, yeah, and I mean I can see a role for that in particular eras and times, but I don't see it as a stable thing that you then think, oh, this is the kind of thing that would work for us. I think it's the kind of thing that can play a role but can't be a persistent thing. It needs to become more. There are different.
What scale are you talking about? Because that statement's true.
Do you know that little phrase? It's a little saying that about strong men and good times.
Yeah.
You know?
Strong men create good times. Good men create weak.
Good times.
Good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. Bad times create strong men.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, I mean, it's just the cyclical nature of things. But if we're talking about the benefits of one style of government over another, I think that it's really context dependent.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
And I think that our major issue is not one of form, but of scale right now. That is, I keep coming back to that. I think we've tried to centralize too much. I think a really great microcosm of that is the school. When you think about a small group of people learning in a loving environment where everybody knows everybody and the teacher who's in charge of the education of the students.
They have relationships.
They have relationships and they listen and they hear the needs, and then you scale out just a little bit to the room where now it's being run very officiously and very with efficiency in mind and with kind of a coldness and a less personal. So you've got students that raise their hand and need to go to the bathroom.
Left behind.
Yeah, all the way to standardized testing and on until you have what we have right now, which is clearly completely falling apart.
It's trash.
But we talked about that last time, so I don't want to go back to this.
Well, I mean, okay, so I'll bring it back to, well, there's two different ways to go. One is that, and we brought this up earlier, when we get to this point in this discussion.
This is an ongoing discussion that we have all the time.
I'm like, okay, well, then eat the bugs and degrowth. Okay, fine.
Well, the bugs are part of the centralized. That's why we're eating the bugs. That's who's putting the bugs in the world.
But they want to degrowth too. I mean, the ultimate thing is like to curb people's freedom.
They don't want to really
degrowth.
They want everybody to be easier to manage.
In the pod. Yeah.
Real degrowth.
No, they literally want only 50 or 500 million people on the planet.
Yeah, but that's with someone in charge of all of that. That's not degrowth. That's increased power for a centralized government.
Okay, but if the problem is scale, then fix the scale. Is that the solution then if we get to that?
Yeah, more people need to opt out and be more...
opt out of life?
No.
Sleep in the pod.
No.
Opt
out of
Made in Canada.
The big bureaucratic systems.
Do your duty for the world. Yeah. The other aspect I could talk about what you were talking about power shaping the person. Right.
That was an interesting sentence.
And thank you. Sorry. you said that earlier in a discussion I think we had off camera about people elect officials expecting the officials to be one of them, and then time and time again the role shapes the role.
Yeah, the form.
They take the form of the role. And so. But I was thinking about that not being bad itself, like in a other model of society, you have the aristocracy where people are born into privilege, and there is a relationship between the different classes, and that relationship between the different classes doesn't necessarily have to be exploitative.
Okay.
Or based on exploitation. So you have the landed gentry whose pride and honor is to manage the estate, and the estate includes all of the people on that estate, and they have a patrician relationship
That's a
with them.
pretty big assumption.
I think that is the model of feudal Europe.
That sounds like an idealized version of that.
I'm just saying that the relationship doesn't need to be based on exploitation.
I mean, if people are perfect, maybe. But
well, okay, but people are so we're at the point where we can't talk about this thing because people are perfect, and anytime you try to change something, it's just going to fall apart. It's like, okay, well, but what about the story? What about the relationships? What about the solutions? What about the ways that people? We have to have power. I don't think that we can get away without having power.
I guess it's just a different way of conceptualizing it, because I just see it as a tug of war. It's a perpetual rebalancing, and there's not an end point that makes sense. All of these things make sense as little subplots. All of these things will be necessary at certain points and not helpful at other points. But I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me to just talk about one particular form as being idealized over other forms. They're all going to play in and out of each other.
Okay.
I don't know.
There's just interesting things to inspect in these different forms.
Yeah.
But if we keep on saying, well, any form is just not, because there's this other form over here. Like, okay, well, let's look at that. Well, but there's this form over here.
This is the point in the conversation when Benjamin gets really frustrated.
Well, I want to win. I want to win, and you're worm blocking me. You're flicking my worm.
Oh, God.
Flow with me, lady. Okay.
I love you.
I'm sorry, I love you too. Sorry if we sound frustrated. Or if
Can I ask you a question? You get frustrated with me. Yeah.
What is this for?
This is it looks like it's broken, but it's a cutter. See, they're not lining up.
Well,
it's a cutter for.
They just need to go with it.
Oh, okay. Then it's not broken. It's a cutter. It's a.
Not sure you point that cutter.
It's for needle felting.
And now we do the briss of Shai Halou.
No, you can do that if you want to. It's for I bought it for needle felting because I do little wool animals.
Oh, really?
Have you seen them?
No.
You haven't?
No, you should break them out.
Oh, I don't know. They're probably in the boys' room.
Okay, we'll have to remember to get those out. You
can
do some crafty things.
Well, Julian got into needle felting a few years ago. He wanted to learn about it, so I got into it with him because I thought, well, that looks interesting, and so we ended up making a lot of little animals.
I wanted to show. Oh.
What are you looking for?
Oh, you sent me an email of one of your photos because you were thinking about doing it. You're not ready.
What is
one
it?
of your pictures. Like I thought.
Oh.
Because we talk about my things that I like to talk about, but we never talk about the things that you like to talk about, such as crafts and drawings. And you want to make a coloring book. And
well, I did. I made a coloring book a few years ago, but it's probably that one.
Is it this one?
Yeah, that's just a little doodle. I have all these plain drawings.
Yeah, I didn't ready.
Ready.
I'll get that ready, and we can shill some merch. We need to shill some merch.
Yeah.
They're really pretty drawings that you make.
Well, thank you.
And they're good for drawing. And
thank
coloring.
you. I spent a couple years doing line drawings that I was creating specifically to make coloring books. And then I put together two, and they were I did one and I made a whole bunch of copies of it that were just self-published myself and sold all of them. So I don't have any of them left. And I have enough to do a second one, and now I have this set of airplane drawings that I've been doing.
Airplanes?
Because I just draw on airplanes. No, I draw when I'm on airplanes.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
No, they're not of airplanes.
Because your son is drawing airplanes.
Yeah, no, it's just drawings while on airplanes, and I was thinking about doing a third coloring book of those.
Speaking of airplanes, we will be in Austin next weekend. If anybody wants to meet up with us, maybe I can put that out.
I think we're going to Mines Fest.
Well, yeah, but that's just one, or the whole weekend?
No, that's just one night.
So maybe Sunday or something like that,
yeah.
I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll float that. We can talk about that. It would be nice to have a meetup, because we had one in Seattle. It'd be
so
nice
I don't know if it's because I'm hungry, but I keep wanting to know why you named it Snacks Positive. And why does monogamy come into the snacks?
Well, it's the song that I'm going to sing at the end.
Oh, is it? Is that what this is about?
Yeah. I might have already
Are you snacks positive?
Are you snacks positive?
What does it mean to be snacks positive?
Well,
does it mean all snacks are okay and there's never a bad
okay, you're snacks choosy. You're snacks
selective.
particular. You're snacks selective. It's like a cereal monogamist. I'm snack selective.
Cereal.
Yeah.
Like crunchy cereal.
Yeah. I'll just sing the song while you look through chat if you want.
Oh, look. Hi, Jen. Nice to see you on here. Yeah. So, are you thinking about snacks?
No, it was just we came up with that
Okay.
snacks positive.
Oh, so it doesn't have anything to do with anything we're going to
We
talk
were
about. You're
doing.
not going to
Well, I
delight me
don't.
with like food except for the George R. Martin quick.
There's something I'm not gonna say.
Okay, don't say
I
it.
won't
What
say
else is
it.
on
I'm
your mind?
trying to be a good person
What
for you,
is
Leslie, and
what
it's so hard.
Is it?
Like I want the clicks, but then we lost for
Oh,
some reason.
jeez.
We got yellowed out. I think we
What
caught.
do you mean? What did we
Well,
do?
we got yellowed out. I think we used the one of the F words
Oh,
or
you
something
must
like
have
that.
done
I
that.
must have done that.
It wouldn't
I was being a little. I was being a little
You kind of like to be in
loose
trouble.
and goosey.
That's something about you.
I like to be a little in trouble, like not a lot in trouble.
You get a lot in trouble.
I haven't in a while.
Not
Well,
with the feminists.
yeah, with the feminists.
Yeah.
I kind of miss them in a
Oh,
way.
well.
I'm thinking about just bringing it up with my channel. I'm thinking about easing back. Well, I want to ease back from content creation for the summer and focus on taking all of my D-Trans interviews and turning them into a book. And cleaning that all up and really concentrating on making a nice book of these really beautiful stories of the detransitioners and, making it available to people. Because I think that the insight that I have procured out of my guests, not necessarily my own insight, but their insights that I've summoned, I've evoked, I think is really and could potentially be very impactful for the entire gender conversation.
Yeah.
Because gender, like you say, gender doesn't really make any sense in and of itself. But the stories of human beings struggling with it, I think, are just so real, and that really it really takes the ideology out of it. It really just deflates it. And so I don't think I have the capacity to be to do that interview thing as much as possible and do the writing thing. It's so laborious to go through all this writing and stuff. So I'm thinking of kind of trying to ease back from content creation for the summer. And I don't even know what that looks like, because I'll still be doing
Maybe it looks
content.
like you do a week
Yeah.
break where you just do a bunch of interviews and then dole them out
Yeah.
a couple times a week. Yeah, that's I think that it's really important what you're talking about with the D-Trans interviews, because it so humanizes everything. It humanizes that whole experience for people on both sides. So it's a cautionary tale to some, but it's also a window into why somebody would fall into this for people who would feel really resistant to understanding that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really beautiful.
You know what?
What?
I think you're really happy.
Why?
Because you're like, this is my idea all along. This is my idea all along.
No, it just seems like such a great collection. I think
This
that
was my idea, and you say it's my idea.
No.
You won as a woman. You planted the seed, and then you watched Napoleon take over Russia. Maybe that's a bad example.
I don't want you to take over Russia.
Okay, but the Austrian territories are.
No. I think it's okay if you
even
don't.
take
No,
the Austrian.
no, but you can feed the chickens.
What? That's so emasculate. I'm going back to Shia looting.
No, I see you out there petting the chickens. It's
They
very sweet.
take the position. It's like they do. They stick their butt up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll pet you. They want their little rooster attention time. Nobody else is giving it to. This is kind of being a little too much, but you just they really are. I don't know what happened, but you turned me into a chicken lord, and I love my chickens. Like Paul Atreides loves the Fremen. And I want to take the chickens out and wreak havoc on the known universe and peck out the eyes of the emperor. And take his place and have a little chicken wing fight with the bald dude.
Oh my gosh, it's a pecking order. Okay. Oh, that's cute. Looking at these comments. Good grief. That's a good name.
What was a good thing that you thought of? We came up
Oh,
with that.
Asnacktual.
Oh, are you asnacktual?
Ben waves at women. I'm offended.
No, I want to
He
wave.
wants to wave
I
at
want
women.
to.
Oh, Wooksy is auto-snacktual. What does that mean? He eats himself.
Well, there's a lot of things that get attached to the body and form up in the toes and stuff like that, and you can just
Ew.
pick them out
That's
in
yeah,
their
okay.
ears. And
I like Snack Entity. That's a good name.
Snackety,
Demi Snacks.
Snacksual.
Yeah. Snacks positive. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's talk about snacks, baby. Let's talk about chips and cheese. Let's talk about all the apples and the oranges that we eat. Let's talk about snacks. Let's talk about snacks. Let's talk about snacks. Let's talk about snacks.
yeah, that's a good song. I
Thank
remember
you.
when you sang it to that girl.
Yeah, I got in trouble. That
Yeah,
was the
you
first
did.
time I got in trouble with you.
I don't know if it was trouble. Was it trouble?
Let's not go back there.
Okay.
Let's not go back there. So I feel like we've run out of things to talk about.
Did we?
Yeah,
Okay.
because like I can't talk
Yeah.
about power.
Yeah,
Power.
that's good.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, you said you wanted to talk about the yellow pylons.
Oh, the yellow pylons. No, I mean that was just something that could have come up, but it didn't come up.
Well, but I think that that's something kind of interesting.
Well, there was a bit on Twitter that
Yeah.
came from TikTok about this girl who wanted to know why banks install these yellow pylons.
Those yellow
I
poles.
think she called them
She-
poles.
poles.
And because like it's hard to see them and you run into them and then you have to run over them and it just damages your car. And the whole bit, I think it was a bit, she was just so incredibly
Ditzy.
dumb.
But this is the thing that I think that that's what's really interesting about that is the way that it's you put yourself out there, and maybe it was comedy. I kind of hope that was actual comedy. Like maybe she did that to present that
For
character.
the lulz, as the kids say.
Maybe, but if it wasn't, I don't know. There's something kind of sad about these videos that get shared around and ridicule
okay.
and how we ridicule them. You know, and even
Well, I mean,
isn't
is it
that
ridicule?
a strange thing? I mean,
Well, is it
what does that
ridicule, though?
contribute to people?
Well, not to act that way. Like these are desirable traits, these are undesirable traits.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand.
Okay.
I don't like to indulge in that myself, but I can see the social necessity. But just
But
at
on,
scale,
again, scale.
at scale, like
Yeah.
that's why I stopped participating in pylons, yellow or otherwise.
Pile-ons
Yeah.
or pylons.
That was the
Oh,
joke.
that's good. That's very
You
good.
have to pet the worm now because you explained the joke.
I have not yet pet the worm.
You explained the joke. You have to pet the worm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
You're so silly.
Where were we
This
talking
is the
about?
silly end.
Pylons. Okay, so who cares if I'm one more voice disc? If it's like a news organization and I come up with something clever, then I'll do that. You know, I'll comment. You know, or I'll share something. You know, but I saw in my Twitter activity that stuff sticks to me. When I'm like, you know, sharing pictures of people being stupid, it kind of sticks to me. And so if I can't do it with wit and grace, which is what I mean by wit, like cruelty with grace, that is what wit is in its dark
Cruelty
aspect.
with
Yes.
grace.
In its darker aspect, but there's a lighter aspect. When I'm not making fun of you, but making fun with you. You know, those two. Yeah. When I'm not actually getting in trouble, I'm just making you feel good. With my words and stuff like that, yeah. So cruelty with grace, it's necessary. It does.
I don't know
it
if I agree
serves-
with your definition, but I'm following you.
I'm just making it
Okay.
up off the top of my
Okay.
head. I'm speaking out of my ass, but it is a part of the social fabric, and it is also how I got on the stage. Is that these incredibly stupid people did incredibly cringy things, and then I showed it and I humanized them as much as possible. You know. And in a certain respect, the whole transgender thing is very laughable. You have all these pronouns. You want to cut your dick off? Like, what the fuck are you doing? But like, there's these human beings that are struggling for love.
Yeah.
They're struggling for love, and sometimes, like when they're watching a Taylor Swift song on TikTok and they're drooling and sobbing at the same time, you're like, I'm not going to comment on that, but people shouldn't behave that way. And I want somebody to mercilessly point at them
Yeah.
so that they correct themselves.
Yeah.
Correct yourself. You need
Yeah.
correction. And if you're putting yourself out there looking for love, but not looking for love, but looking for likes, and you start acting like an idiot, I think that the system, the human culture, the pushback is a natural
Wow.
corrective.
That's interesting, and I agree with you. Except I I do wonder about.
You're too nice.
It's not about being nice so much as, you see what cancel culture does to people.
Yeah.
And that's just, what is that? That's internet mobbing. That's a bunch of people mocking you. That's a bunch of people you don't know. And it's the sense that your reputation is trash and that you're irredeemable socially. And so that experience, well, when we think about cancel culture, we think about that being related to some view that you have that is out of vogue with the people who are upset about it. But doesn't that also apply to just somebody who did a little bit of a stupid thing and then published it? I mean, yes, maybe there should be a social pushback. It's kind of like, did you do something stupid on the road? Well, you got honked at and you felt a little embarrassment, so you corrected.
Yeah,
and you're not gonna do that again. But when it comes in, something that you do that's stupid goes viral.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a harsh punishment. But yes, you did ask for it by putting it online.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing with fire.
But also, it's just, what is that force that we're playing with? That sort
You're
of,
playing
again,
with
it
attention.
comes back to scale.
And it comes back to inhabiting a form. Is the form you're inhabiting cringe? Then choose a different form. Maybe you'll get less likes and less hates. Or maybe you want the hates, like Jeffrey Marsh or Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah,
or whatever. Like,
yeah.
They want that. They want it.
Yeah, that must be really incredible to be subject to those forces, to be playing with that, Like the Jeffrey Marsh guy. That's a scary character.
Yeah, I just stopped sharing him because he was designed to be shared with loathing.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't give him attention, guys.
Yeah.
He's obviously a narcissist.
But what is going on with a person like that? That's really interesting.
I don't know. You meet some messed up people. I had this interview that I'll be publishing this week, and it was a man who loathed himself as a man. He was taught that men are bad, and he internalized that, and he projected that on to he processed that, or sublimated that into wanting to be a woman, and he transitioned, beholden to this idea of gender, and not understanding, as he puts it, that gender wasn't something he was born with. It was something that he developed as a coping mechanism for trauma that he had with regard to his primary caregiver and what she imprinted on him. And then he goes through the process of realization of that. And it's such a beautiful interview. I didn't know who he was going to be. And I'm like, okay, this guy is trans, detrans. There is a high likelihood of middle-aged man going through transition and detransition that he is a narcissist. There's a high likelihood of some sort of dark triad thing. But that's not necessarily the case anytime. And I will know that right away, but I just don't want to hang out with those people because they just they are energy vampires, as Alex Jones would say. It didn't turn out to be that way. He turned out to be very sincere, very honest, a little bit nervous, and he got comfortable and it really opened up. And it was I forgot where I was going with this. Just this
It's a really meaningful conversation.
Well, I mean, I guess with regard to cringe content and with regard to that which is ridiculous and is ridiculed and is dragged through the mud. I think a lot of people aren't being real. And they're looking for something they're looking for reality somewhere where there's no reality. And so they act in ways or they behave in ways that's just not proper and it's not good. And they either fall in love with the negative attention and learn how to thrive on that, learn how to do the conversion of negative into positive inside. They're like, okay, I'm getting all this hate, but it's still attention, and they do some sort of conversion, but it doesn't help them become real. So sometimes that ridiculing helps somebody. It's a harsh help, and I don't like to perform that unless I can phrase it in a way with grace, or that I can bring some insight into it, or I can just wait for them to kind of change and then show their story, from a human aspect of it. But the process of becoming real is hard enough when you are being sincere. Even when you are being sincere, you still have to deal with so much of your own bullshit. Like anybody who goes on the path of actual self-development, what you realize, I'm going to be sincere is oh, I'm fake there and I'm fake here and I'm wanting something that is just out of order of what I should be wanting. I'm putting myself outside of myself rather than doing the work of and then you go through the process of vomiting up and seeing your shit and then feeling shame for that, and then the shame can stick you there. Or you can convert the shame into like, okay, I need to do something about this. Okay, I don't want to be this way. I'm embarrassed by this. I don't want to be this way anymore. And last point, like working with preschoolers as much as I did, they're not cognizant of themselves and they need to learn a little bit of shame. A little bit of shame, like a little bit of like, oh, I shouldn't be that way. Oh, it's embarrassing that way. It's embarrassing to be like the loudest, most annoying person at the table. It's really embarrassing, and nobody likes to be around you, and so you're blocking yourself off. So you have to control yourself, and like you can't really tell a kid to control. You can authoritarianly imprint that on them. I don't think that's effective. You can softly say that is annoying. Please don't do that. Or like when you do that, it makes it really hard to hang out with you, But then like eventually just kind of give them like kind of eventually they have to see themselves. Eventually you have to provide the last point, I would see little kids, like when I was working in the toddler room, they come in and they were just in a bad mood. They were just in a really bad, they were off, and they were just like, things weren't working well with them. And like I would try, like I at first when I saw that, I would try to correct them in some way. Like I'd either try to help them or try to hinder them from acting this way. They could just would act out more and more and more. And then I'm like, okay, just observe, just watch. And invariably, this kid would be really off and like just really aggravated, and they would fall down or something would happen where they would break into the environment, and the environment would smash them. And then they would get all that chaos would finally have a reason to come out of them. It would all come out of them in this big whaley storm. And then they'd be put
Catharsis.
But they did that to themselves, or like God did that. Like what I mean by God is just like they were put in a place, and then the environment, they summoned something, and then they were helped. But like nothing as a human I could have done to do that. I can't intercede on behalf of that process of becoming self-aware or self-corrected. But it's really wonderful to see that, if you can bear witness to somebody in such a way and bear witness to the circumstances, you're actually helping them by just being with them. And so that they can understand, like, they don't have to panic because they're not alone, but they're still facing their own shit.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is your shit. I can't do it for you, but you have to do it, But I'm here.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. That's a really important thing. Like when you talk about the shame of the social response that holds a mirror up to you, like the ridicule.
Yeah.
Well, I think that other element of having a sense that that something has you, that you have the strength in yourself to be able to withstand that, or you have somebody with you, or there's somebody who will understand you. I think that that's important also. And so that's one of the problems. And I don't mean to just go right back to that other discussion, but just to bring what you were saying back into that. I think that's one of the problems with scale, with the cancel culture and these kinds of public viral ridicule things that happen, is that how do you provide a counter to that for yourself when it's happening on such a large scale? How are you able to have somebody to be with you when it feels like everybody thinks you're ridiculous?
Well, step 1, turn off the phone.
Turn off the phone. Yeah.
Step 2, take a walk, breathe. Step 3, actually build real relationships with real people.
That was the coolest thing about the Tucker interview to me, was to find out he doesn't have a TV and he doesn't use email.
Yeah,
a lot of what he said was kind of weird, but a lot of what he said was weird. But
you guys are total buddies.
I don't know about that, but he's okay. But I really was impressed that he's that analog in his life.
I really appreciated just how in the Tucker Carlson Joe Rogan interview, and I don't watch a lot of Joe Rogan. I don't watch a lot of Tucker, but like this there's something. It was interesting. There was a sound bit or two. I'm like, I'm going to listen to it. And I had a project to do. I was just doing some stupid gaming things. It's really stupid.
They're not stupid. You shouldn't say that. It was good things.
I have this hobby, and anyways, but
You're
it's good for
by
me.
Your hobby.
Well, I'm embarrassed for having a hobby, but also I need something where I can just be busy
it's great.
and actually listen to a podcast, because all of my work and everything that I do is so vocal intensive, and I have to listen, that I can't like listen to a podcast while I'm editing a podcast. It's like, why would I do that?
You have to focus. Look at this.
But the way he leaned into truth.
Some people say Brett Weinstein did the same song and improvised lyrics for his wife in one of their streams. He had the same idea as you.
Listen.
Look, Mirwar says, Brett Weinstein did this exact same
Hey,
thing.
listen. I wrote that song in 2007 or 8, okay? And I probably sang it to Brett at some point because he has blood sugar
So it came from you.
issues.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you sang it to that girl almost a year ago, because there was this cute girl on.
I didn't think she was that cute.
She was pretty cute.
She was a snack hoe.
That's what we
called
what
her.
we called it afterwards.
She was being a snack
Not that
hoe.
she was a hoe, but you were like,
I
you sang her
There
this
was-
song and
I
you
did.
posted it on
did.
YouTube.
I
And
thought
then
it
I
was
was
funny.
like,
No, it was Twitter.
I said, oh yeah, Twitter, yeah. I said,
You were standing in line. You're in Iceland.
I was in the airport and
Yeah.
I said, oh, I just saw this thing that you posted, and you know that's a song about sex that you're singing to a cute girl online. That makes me feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
And then, but you didn't get into that much trouble.
Well, I mean, we were
You just
were
feel-
really early.
Yeah.
We were really early.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore. I was
Yeah.
allowing myself to be flirty Benjamin.
Yeah.
And I have to.
You waved at her.
I honked the horn at her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I realized, like, okay, that's improper. That's embarrassing. That's cringy for me to do. And it's embarrassing for you.
Well, that was
To
nice
see
of you.
to see me giving attention to that, and then I looked at my personality, my online persona. You know, I'm like, okay, I have to
Honking the horn.
I have to stop honking the horn. I have to stop being that way, and so I'm gonna have to change my my internet personality. I think I've been doing okay. I just leave that part alone. Like when, childish things.
When you want to wave, you don't. What's that called? There's a word for that.
You said something interesting today, and we should probably wrap up this thing.
What
You're
did
like,
I say?
you said.
What do I want to know?
I don't know if people want to hear this.
No. What
You
is it?
said
Tell me after.
we went into this wonderful.
no,
Did
what
you
is
bring
it
in
gonna
the
be?
food actually? We went.
Yeah, I
we went to
did.
this wonderful little noodle shop. It was
Noodle.
called Bang Bang,
Mm-hmm.
and we had these noodles.
Mm-hmm.
And the curry sauce was really good.
That was super good.
It was really good. It was in Seattle. We were in Seattle. And you're like, you can flirt with waitresses if you want.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, maybe someday, maybe in 10
Because
years.
it's cute. You flirt with waitresses in a kind of. I mean, I guess I don't know what your version of flirting with but
I'm really good.
But what I've seen,
I mean, I'm well behaved.
it's very sweet. It's not like there's not a suggestion.
There's no desire.
It's just you're playful, and that doesn't bother me. I think that's really sweet. It's cute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. You organize your priorities.
It's snacks positive.
I'm trying to be snacks positive, but you have to be in a stable dining relationship so that dinner doesn't get threatened by the snack, you've had kids, you're like, don't eat too much, you're going to ruin your dinner. That's why you don't snack too much. But like, you can be like snack moderate,
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, what's the snack? I mean,
That's the joke.
Fix the metaphor for me.
Pet Shalhoub.
Oh, jeez. All right.
All right. You guys are wonderful. We're going to be in Austin this week. I'm going to try to get some content done, but I have some interviews in the pipes. I'll be on Leslie's channel tomorrow for the Radical Center. Hopefully we get Eva
For Solid
on.
Ground, yep.
Solid Ground. I mean,
Well, we don't know yet. We'll see.
we're going to try to get a fourth guest going on, but maybe
it might just be a little hangout with Deborah.
Yeah.
Do a little
with Deborah
chat.
Filming, and that'll be tomorrow at
No, Deborah Knox.
Deborah Knox.
Yeah. Deb Philman is
Sorry.
a different person.
Deborah.
Although, yeah, if she wants to come, she's welcome.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that. But so that'll be at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Monday, Pacific time.
Yep.
Otherwise, I have some interviews coming up the pipes, and we'll be in Austin,
San Antonio and Austin.
San Antonio, and then Austin next weekend. And so
Yep.
maybe I'll post something if we talk about it, we want to hang out. Maybe we'll want to slink around. I don't know what it's like there. Apparently, Leslie grew up there, and she doesn't want to move back.
And that's pretty hot and trafficy.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of traffic unless I'm the master of it. We should talk about my driving someday.
Oh, well, that's for another day.
Okay, that's for another day, and I might want to go back to professionally driving someday, so we should probably keep that off the docket.
that's probably a
You
good
guys have a
idea.
wonderful time. This is the Deep End, number 16, Snacks Positive Monogamy, with Benjamin Boyce and Leslie Allen.
Have a good week, y'all.